Stories that time forgot.
Nobody in the audience knew that the meeting on September 23, 2016, in Basel laid the technical foundations for the first sovereign digital dollar. Because the final communiqué used the deliberately vague language of innovation in payment infrastructures, the secret banking agreement that designed the digital dollar. You, who check your bank account balance from your mobile phone every morning, should know that the money you consider yours is about to change forever, due to a decision made in the shadows. Imagine a windowless room in the heart of Switzerland with a freezing climate and the distant sound of Basel's trams. There, at the Bank for International Settlements, 11 central bank governors signed a 28-page document that was never published in full. The official title was bland, but the attendees knew its real name, the Basel Agreement on Central Bank Digital Currencies. It didn't create a digital dollar that day. It established the technical, legal, and interoperability framework that would allow the Federal Reserve to launch a sovereign digital currency without fragmenting the global financial system. This document remained classified for 5 years. When it was partially declassified in 2021, we discovered it contained the specifications for what we now call CBDCs. Can you feel the tension in that room as the planet's most powerful financial leaders decided the future of your pocket? The impulse wasn't technological, but geopolitical. In 2015, China launched pilot tests of its digital yuan in the city of Shenzhen. By 2016, the People's Bank of China already had the basic architecture ready. Washington understood the threat. If China established the global standard for sovereign digital currencies before the West, the digital yuan could erode the dollar's dominance as the world's reserve currency. International transactions that currently pass through U.S. systems like chips or the Fedwire funds service could migrate to a Chinese network. That would give Beijing total visibility over global financial flows and the ability to exclude any country from the network. It was an existential threat to American financial power comparable to the space race of the 1960s. The Federal Reserve, led then by Janet Yellen, acted with absolute discretion. Instead of announcing a public project that would have generated market panic and political opposition, she opted for a quiet, multilateral approach. Yellen convinced Mario Draghi of the European Central Bank, Mark Carney of the Bank of England, and Haruhiko Kuroda of the Bank of Japan to form a secret working group. The Bank for International Settlements, with its Basel headquarters and special diplomatic status, offered the neutral space necessary for these discussions. For 18 months, technicians from 11 central banks met monthly. The debates revolved around 3 fundamental dilemmas that will directly affect your daily life. The first was technical design. Should this digital currency be for ordinary citizens or only for financial institutions? The consensus was to develop both layers. The retail layer, the one you would use, would be designed with holding limits such as a maximum of $50,000 per person, to prevent people from mass withdrawing their funds from traditional commercial banks. The second dilemma was privacy versus traceability. Should transactions be anonymous like cash or traceable like a transfer? The agreement established a hybrid model. Transactions under $500 would be pseudonymous, but larger ones would require Know Your Customer identification and would be fully visible to the central bank. Imagine a world where the state knows exactly how much you spend and on what, eliminating the anonymity of the physical bill you keep in your wallet. The third point, and perhaps the most critical, was interoperability. How to ensure that a digital dollar could be exchanged without friction. This is where the concept of payment bridges was born. It specified the use of the International Standard for Financial Messaging, ISO 20-0-2-2, and permission distributed ledger technologies, though they avoided mentioning the word blockchain to avoid triggering regulatory alarm. On September 23, 2016, The 11 governors signed the agreement, including a secret clause. Any country that launched a digital currency without adhering to these standards would be excluded from global wholesale payment networks. It was a technological containment strategy against China disguised as technical cooperation. The United States did not launch the digital dollar immediately. The Federal Reserve adopted a strategy of preparation without haste, developing internal prototypes like Project Hamilton. The reason was purely political. In the U.S. Congress, lawmakers expressed concern about citizen privacy and the government's power to freeze individual funds. Meanwhile, China accelerated. In 2020, it launched its digital yuan in massive trials. And by 2022, more than 260 million Chinese citizens were already using it. The official American response finally arrived on January 9, 2023, with a roadmap that reflected the principles agreed upon in Basel. The true legacy of that secret agreement was establishing that the future of money would be digital and under Western control. Today, more than 60 countries are exploring these technologies. Although the dollar still dominates, CBDCs grant authorities unprecedented power. We are talking about the ability to program money. For example, funds that expire if not spent within a certain time, or money that can only be used in certain businesses. In authoritarian regimes, this is the perfect tool for social control. The government could punish dissent by freezing their savings with a single click. Even in democracies, the Bank for International Settlements has tried to establish codes of conduct, but these are voluntary. This leaves us with a deep philosophical question. Should money be a neutral tool or an instrument of programmable public policy? Proponents say this will combat tax evasion and help distribute economic aid with surgical precision. But critics warn that turning money into an extension of state power destroys the last bastion against tyranny. Would you be willing to accept a digital dollar that the government could program so you could only spend it on products they consider healthy? Or do you prefer to maintain the freedom of cash even if it is less efficient? Leave us your answer in the comments because we want to know what you would have done and hear your vision on this historical change. Your opinion is very important to fuel this debate about the future of our freedom. Like and subscribe to discover more stories time forgot.